Well, it's a pleasure to be joined here on MASN All Access by Matt Blood, the Orioles Vice President, Player Development and Domestic Scouting. And Matt, I want to start there because last year when we talked before the draft, that domestic scouting part was new. And now you have a year under your belt with that new title. What have you learned over the past season?
Just a lot of, getting to know the people, getting to know our general processes, getting to know the little things that you just aren't aware of before you actually take the job. And year one is always one of the more difficult years in any role that you're in. So year two, feels a little more easy, but there are also little things that we want to adjust and try to improve.
Yeah, and it's year one in that new role, but you've obviously been with the organization for a long time on the player development side of things. So I kind of want to ask there, you have seen players that you've drafted now have big league careers. You have seen guys come into the minor leagues and maybe have a bit of a harder time. What have you learned about the guys that you have drafted in terms of what makes a player successful and some commonalities among those guys?
Well, generally players with tools and players that are good at playing the game usually do pretty well. In our system, the way that we train and the way that we practice, the players who lean into our style of practice usually advance faster than others. We like to train very similar to the game. And so those players who like that type of thing usually do better. But ultimately, it's the guys that can play defense, the guys that can hit the ball hard, make contact, make good swing decisions. They generally perform well.
Yeah, and with your background leading player development, you know firsthand what kinds of guys succeed down on the farm. How valuable has that been over this process now that you're going into the scouting side of things to say, hey, I know what ticks for these guys who develop well?
It's definitely helpful. When I first started in the industry, I was a scout. So I have some experience in draft rooms and just doing that job. But then also being on the player development side, it gives you a look into what it takes, to make it through the minor leagues and to the major leagues. And so just having that well-rounded perspective, I think, is an advantage for me.
Yeah, and when you're talking about a draft prospect, there's always kind of the two things of tools and projectability versus guys that we maybe consider, gamers. They've got the intangibles. And obviously in an ideal world, you're looking for a great combination of those two things. But how have you found yourself kind of weighing those two factors?
That's a tough question. Ultimately, we want major league players. So we need players that have major league skill as well as major league mindset, and ideally you can find players with both, but there are all different types of players that have made it to the major leagues and have been successful, so there's no really one specific way to slice and dice it.
Yeah, and obviously you guys aren't drafting in the top 5 anymore, but you haven't needed to draft guys like Gunnar Henderson and Jordan Westberg. This year you sit at 19, 30, and 31. On those two topics there, the projectability and tools versus the intangibles, how much more of a challenge is it to find it at the back half of the first round, a good combination of those two things? And is there any difference in weighing those two when you're at the back half of the first round versus maybe, hey, a blue chip prospect towards the top of the draft?
I don't think so. It's just each pick, we're trying to make the best bet we can, and we look at the players that are available. And we look at all the information that we have, their performance, our scouting reports, the intangibles, and we do our best to project out which player has the best chance, and that's the one that we're going to draft.
As I mentioned, you have those 3 picks in the top 31. They're all pretty close to each other, 30 and 31, literally right next to each other. Is there any difference in strategy there versus, having 2 picks 30 selections apart? Or is it just, hey, we're still trying to get the best guy?
No, we're just trying to get the best guy. The best bet for major league value. And it comes in a lot of different ways, and we'll see what's available. There's 29 other teams, and they're all trying to do the same thing. And lining up on one particular player is very hard to do. But when you got 2 picks back to back, then you get to take your next 2 guys on your list versus just getting one and having to wait, 29 more picks before getting to go again.
Now, last year when we talked, you said as you were picking at pick 20, you said, okay, somebody's going to fall to us. We feel confident in that. I kind of wanted to ask about just what that means exactly. Is it, hey, the industry thinks really highly of this guy and we're anticipating he's going to go earlier? Or is it just our internal evaluation of this player going, hey, he's pretty high on our list and some evaluators might have him at 50, but we feel like he's falling to us based on his value to us at pick 19?
Yeah, I mean, every team's different. Every team evaluates what they feel like is the best bet a little differently. And so what that normally means is you're going to end up getting someone who's higher on your list because, you know, our list is different than other teams' lists. And we would like to think that we have a sound process that we've continued to try to improve. You know, going back to when Sig and Mike first really got this thing going a long time ago, back when we were with St. Louis, and feel like that gives us a competitive advantage. But ultimately, you know, every team's trying to do the same thing. And it's a very highly competitive world. And we would like to think that a player that we really want will fall to us and we'll be excited about it.
Yeah, and in the early seasons of this draft process for you guys, you know, it's easy to look at the Adley Rutschmans and the Gunnar Hendersons and say, hey, we're a lot of years down the line and we're happy about how those drafts went. How do you look at the past few seasons? When do you start to maybe evaluate, hey, we're happy about how this draft night went? Does it take a few years to look at a prospect like that? How early does that process start?
It definitely takes a few years, especially when you're drafting a little bit later, because those are the type of players that need probably a little more grooming before they're going to be ready. Otherwise, they probably would have gone a little higher. And so, yeah, it takes a few years, and it really, like, the whole draft is what you need to evaluate to see, like, how we did.
On this class specifically, what do you like about the draft class in your range?
We feel like it's a pretty deep class. We don't feel like it's a super top heavy. It's more a large group of players that are all kind of similar. So it's going to be actually more difficult, I think, for us to decide like who we like more. But it also means with those 3 picks that we have, we should be able to get 3 shots at somewhat similar upside type players.
Yeah, and at the risk of kind of getting a similar answer here, just being, hey, we want to draft the best guy available, is there a consideration to how the farm system looks, maybe positions of need, where you guys feel like you could maybe bolster here or there? Or is it just, again, hey, if this is the best guy on our board, that's who we're going to select, regardless of whether or not it's a position we maybe feel a little thin at down on the farm?
Yeah, I mean, there's the minor leagues, there's so many players, and it takes time. And so it would be foolish to draft for just pure need of where we're kind of short in the minor leagues, because things can change. And it takes enough time to where that's really not a good strategy. So we're just going to go for the best player we can get.
Now, last question for you here. You get to the end of draft night, you're looking back on it and you're saying, man, we had a really good night. What do you think will have happened there?
I think we just will be happy about our process leading up, you know, and that we feel that we were able to get the players in an order through a good process. And then hopefully we'll get lucky, and some players that we feel are higher on our list will fall down to where we are, and we'll be able to get some that we're excited about.
Well, Matt, we know it's crunch time for you, so very much appreciate you making some time, and we're looking forward to draft night.
Awesome. Thank you.